with physical, which is one of the kind of brands that I have, or one of the projects, should I say, that I'm juggling. I initially wanted to make it kind of all documentary based.
Yeah.
Filming people, interviewing them, but it's a heavy load. So I've kind of like switched into this podcasting space, and we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Well, thanks for connecting. I mean, obviously, I've been following physical for. I mean, it must be. I mean, several years.
Yes.
So I always see you kind of popping up, and I know we spoke about connecting a long time ago. But yeah, so it's good to see what you're doing, and so it was an honor to be invited onto the podcast. So
Thank you, man. Thank you.
No, so thank you.
So could you do me a favor? Could you introduce yourself to the audience? Just letting them know, who you are, what your accolades are, what motivates you.
Okay, so I'm Darryl Edwards. I'm the founder of Primal Play, or the Primal Play Method. I started my working career in investment banking technology. I realized that I was living a very sedentary, highly stressed, poor health, existence. So I was doing really well financially. I was doing very well in terms of living in a meritocracy. Work hard, get rewarded, get the accolades. But there was something that lacked enrichment, and my health suffered. So I was driven then to improve my health and well-being, to follow my passion. And my passion became physical activity, became exercise, became movement. And what made me stand out in this space was my emphasis on play, on playful movement for adults, on creative, innovative movement for adults in kind of fitness and space. So the reason why I developed the Primal Play method was to inspire others to embrace physical activity, but to have fun whilst they're getting healthier and more robust in the process. So that's really a summary of me and my work.
One thing that I've seen on your page, or one thing that I saw most recently, was the award of the fellowship of the British the British Society of Lifestyle Medicine.
Yes.
And for me, that was like, I was like this, like it was a post, I was applauding it, it's awesome. And it's, I don't know how I'll try and figure out how I'm going to phrase this. First off, you don't strike me as the kind of person that would have issues with not having enough accolades, or not having enough, having issues with people not giving you your flowers, should I say.
Right.
In my mind, from the work that you do, the effort and the stuff, the energy that you put into this, you should be a lot bigger than you actually are.
Yes.
Do you have a theory as to why that's the case?
Yeah, that's a really interesting kind of question, and I suppose in some respects it depends on what you mean by bigger than you are, right? So if I look at some of my individual accolades, so for example, I've featured on BBC documentaries, I've featured in international press, New York Times, the Daily Telegraph, the Guardian, the Observer. I featured in the specialist press, men's health, women's health, men's fitness. So there's certainly been an appreciation in lots of quarters for my work. I've been on top 1% podcasts. So the biggest podcast audiences in the world, I've appeared on podcasts in that vein. I've, from a public speaking point of view, I've given a TED talk. I've appeared on stages all over the world, evangelizing my work and my philosophy. So when I look at kind of individual, I've written best-selling books, so when I look at individual achievements, part of me goes, well, wow, what else is there to do? You've ticked so many boxes you could never have dreamed of achieving in all of these different areas. On the other hand, I feel the rewards for that level of achievement aren't fully realized. And I have two theories as to why that is. So the optimistic view of that is, one, I'm in the movement and fitness space. And the movement and fitness space, in many respects, prizes elitism. So it prizes aesthetics, it prizes physical achievement, it prizes competition, and therefore isn't very accessible. So a lot of people, it's just aspirational. I wish I could do that. I wish I could look like that. I can't, but it's great to spectate. So I think that's one issue, because my work, the emphasis is very much on health and well-being. It's very much on being inclusive and making things accessible and trying to cater for the general population, of encouraging people just to move more. Find something you love, find something you enjoy. And so that message, in some respects, is going against the tide, right? So, if you buy a cover of, if you buy a Men's Health or Men's Fitness magazine, you're not going to see somebody having fun on the front cover. You're going to see somebody who's got 8-pack abs, ripped to shreds, who has a phenomenal work ethic, diets himself to submission to look his best on the day of that photo shoot. That's what you're going to see. And then when you look through the programming, you're going to see how hard and what it takes to achieve a particular look that only a handful of people can ever achieve. Genetics, the work effort, the programming, the nutritional knowledge. So in some respects, I go against that grain. The second is, I'm an adult who's talking a lot about play. So talking about play, immediately people think of kids. Oh, you work with kids. Oh, that's great for children. Oh, my kids should be playing more. Oh, it's not like how it used to be. So you've got this messaging that one goes against the grain, because you're saying, hey, let's make movement, fitness more accessible. Let's make it more enjoyable. Let's make it more fun. Then you're saying the recipe for that is playing more. What, as an adult? Yes, as an adult. Isn't that patronizing? No, it's actually a superset of work. Play enables us to actually reach our have a hint at what our capacity is and what our potential is, to access our creativity, to access what brings us joy. So I think that's a very difficult message for people to swallow, right? Because most people are not in touch with their playful state. They're in touch with, I want to work hard, I want to be very competitive, I want outcomes, I want goals. In the play state, it's like, I want flow, I want passion, I want a love for what I'm doing in the moment. I want to change my mind from 1 minute to the next. I'm less focused on sets and reps, more focused on what feels good now. I'm more focused on exploring what my body's capable of, even when I'm not good at it. Whereas, most times when you're training, you're trying to develop a skill and go through a periodization where you're getting better and better and better and better. And you spend more time doing the handful of things that you're really good at. Whereas when you're in a play state, you're just thinking, oh my goodness, there's so many things I can do. What am I what am I going to do next? So I think so I think the play aspect, the inclusive, accessible aspect makes the competition even harder to stand out, because I am less formulaic than those I could point to in this space, where I could say, yeah, their message is pretty much the same as every other person in this space, right? and their voices are going to be louder as a consequence. So if I was saying, hey, the solution to all ills is like doing burpees, doing an Ironman, fitter, stronger, harder, faster, go, train like an athlete, beat yourself into submission every time you go into the gym. Those messages, I think, work really well from a marketing point of view, from a spectator point of view. But in terms of what humans need, which the majority of us, 90% plus of us, have a physically inactive, sedentary behavior lifestyle. Most of us are not training like athletes. Most of us don't have the will, don't have the ability to push ourselves physically that hard to achieve the fitness goals that we believe that we want. Most of us are starting from the sofa and starting from the chair. And so for me, who at heart sits in that 90+%, I sit into I would just love to spend my days sitting down, just playing my Xbox. If somebody said to me, if I had a choice and there was no harmful ramifications of the choice, I'm telling you now, I'd be like, hey, let's just cut the podcast now, mate. I want to go and play the game that I've got loaded up, ready to, you know what I mean? And I want to spend all day, all night, sacrifice my sleep. So, I probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but that's the true me, right?
Yeah.
So I have to fight to become a physically active individual. And the way that I fight is by seeking joy and seeking fun from movement. And so that means I create excuses to go, hey, you know what? I've got something that's even better than me being on a joystick. You know what I mean? I can get outside and I can play in nature. I can create new movement patterns. I can play games with my peers. I can play games with people older, younger, with great mobility, with not much in the way of mobility. So that excites me. So I found a way for movement to excite me. So those would be, I suppose, the most optimistic viewpoints as to why success sometimes can feel limiting, even though I feel as if, what more is there for me to do? On the more pessimistic side, I would say that unfortunately we live in a world where, as a person of color, I feel sometimes you have to do more to be recognized at a much lower level of attainment. So, my parents told me when I was a very young kid, they went, you're going to have to work twice as hard as your peers who are not the same color as you for you to be recognized for that ability. And for every stage of my academic achievement going into the workplace, I realized that was the case. It was like, how much better can I be at this to be just recognized as the person who's the best at this, in this space, in this environment, in this department, in this organization, So I know that, systemic racism, it's uncomfortable to talk about, but systemic racism plays a part. The stakeholders for many of the environments that I want to be in, people are not people who look like me, unfortunately, are not people who are aware of the world that I come from, the issues that somebody like myself has dealt with in my lifetime. So I think that certainly plays a part. And so sometimes when you are in these spaces, you go, oh, I'm the only person who looks like me at this conference. So I've been to conferences where there's like there may be 50 speakers there, and I might be the only person of color attending. And you know there are people who are equally as qualified as some of the other speakers there. So why is there not more representation? You know, sometimes it's a male-female thing. Sometimes you're like, hold on a second, why is there 90% male speakers, right? When these topics could be spoken about by both genders without any issues. You know, it's not a male-dominated topic we're discussing, right? So I feel, unfortunately, there's an issue around equity. There's an issue around inclusion and accessibility. But the positive to that aspect of that, you know, pessimistic view, or realistic, probably more realistic, is it drives me even more so, because yes. I don't want that to. I want to feel as if I still have a control over what doors I can open. As difficult as I feel the challenges may be, I'm like, you know what? I still feel that I want to do this. I still feel as if I want to make my mark, and I don't want to be held back by that, or I don't want to feel as if I'm being held back by that, even if I am being held back by that. So I hope that explains kind of like
yes, it does.
Two sides of the coin.
So, with regard to the pessimistic answer, one idea, one thought that I've had is, so there's the racial aspect.
Yeah.
There's also the class aspect. So in that, the difficulty I find with trying to get my members of my family, black members of my family, to get into fitness or get into exercise is it seems to be held as more of a frivolous pursuit amongst black people, particularly black people of a certain class, black people of middle class or upper middle class or whatever, educated black people. Yes. There seems to be this view that, you know, play, fitness, these things are frivolous pursuits. So you have the issue of not getting the institutional support, but then could there also be the issue of not getting your community support because they're not viewing what you're doing as, you know, as important to them, even though they're probably the group that needs it the most for its health and, you know, psychological benefits as well.
I totally agree. I think there's obviously a cultural component, right? There are social determinants of health, and I think you know, some cultures do they look at, I suppose, at physicality as being a less important aspect of our person than, you know, cognitive, academic, professional achievement, right? So, you know, if we think about physicality, we go, oh yeah, sports people, yeah, athletes, yeah, somebody who's in the gym a lot, yeah, whatever, right? The people that we kind of cherish or we aspire, it's easy if we say, I mean, for example, my parents are like, you've got 2 or 3 choices of what you're going to do when you're older. That's it. Okay, what is it? Doctor, lawyer, right? Maybe accountant if you can't quite be a doctor or lawyer. That's pretty much what I was told. And most of my schooling, you know, the only thing that I was thinking of is, how am I going to get to be Dr. Edwards? That was it. So I understand that there's these cultural pressures, there's these class level pressures. We know that you know, for some people, being in the middle class, you're actually more likely. Evidence tells us you're more likely to have a gym membership. you're more likely to focus on your mental well-being. You've got more space and time and money to be able to make more helpful choices. When you lower down the the class system, you're more likely just thinking about survival, just like getting from one day to the next. Right? Gym membership, like that's disposable income that I don't have. Right? Okay, you don't need a gym. Well, I don't have the time because I've got 2 jobs. Right? I'm like hustling, side hustles, plus my main job, plus I've got all these responsibilities. So I don't have time to exercise. I've just got time to live. And then you have those who, even if they are middle class, they feel it's almost beneath them, right? To be puffing and sweating and focusing on something that doesn't seem to be important until maybe they have a health issue. And then they're like, oh, exercise has become important in my life. So, yeah, I think that's a really good point about the cultural and class-based aspects of how we view the importance of movement. But given, and probably even more important, actually, I think is the technological component, because in the last sort of 50 years, from when I was a kid, and thinking about the adults in my life back when I was growing up, most people were active. Not gym active, not exercising, but they were moving a lot, right? So my mother would be walking for days. She didn't drive, she walked everywhere. She'd be carrying heavy bags of shopping. We couldn't keep up with her when she was walking, So that was the norm. She used to walk like she was a sprinter. This pace, the speed, you're just like, incredible. My father, he was switched from being a mechanic, painter, decorator. He was always doing something that again was quite physical. So he used to wake up in the morning. He'd 10 push-ups, 10 squats, 10 sit-ups, done. That was his gym, right? And then, but I could appreciate his physicality. He was a strong individual. He realized his nickname was Power. My father, right? He appreciated his physicality, right? Even though he didn't exercise. But of course, you fast forward 1-2 generations on, and most people just live this sedentary behavior. We have excuses now based on our environment. We don't need to do, we can now Uber. Uber. We can get things delivered from the comfort of our phone. We can be entertained in our homes. So all of those choices mean there's a societal pressure to be more sedentary because it becomes acceptable. It becomes more comfortable. I'm sure if I spoke to my mother back in the 70s and says, "Hey, Mom, we don't have to. Guess what, Mom? You don't have to go to the supermarket anymore." Or even then, she didn't go to supermarkets. It was the different. You went to the grocers, green grocers. You went to the butchers, fishmongers, to the market, right? There wasn't one place you could go to, right? So, if I ever told her, "Hey, Mom, guess what? There's this device you can use, and you just say what you want on this list and click a button, and it's going to arrive." And you'll pay more or less the same price for the food. I know what my mother would have said to me as a kid. She'd be saying, "No, I want to feel the food, look at the food. I want to
choose the right one."
Yeah. I want to choose. I want to make sure it's fresh. I want to make sure, right? So she would have wanted to be involved in that process. She would want to say, "I'm not going to a supermarket to pay more for my food for convenience because I want to speak to the butcher that I know I have a relationship with, and I'm going to be getting the best cuts of meat, and I'm going to, So she would have made that choice for so many reasons, and it would have been very acceptable then. But making that decision now, I don't know anyone who purchases in that way anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And if you do, it does tend to be like an elitist form of purchasing. You know, the butchers now is that like the grass-fed, you know, like, you know, in owning certain high streets, you know, where they tell you what part of the land that cow came from, and
Yeah.
you know, like what
Yeah.
age.
It seems like
you know.
it seems a bit like a theatre now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Those kind of shops.
You're making a statement in whether it's whether it's a choice. You know, it's an informed choice. But I think for most people, they will say, I shop at my local X supermarket that has all the food choices that I need, and convenience is more important than the choice of going to different vendors. And of course, there's less choice now, right? There are less butchers than there would have been when I was a kid, and less greengrocers, because they can't compete with the biggest supermarkets and everything else. But yeah, I think the biggest pressure I feel on our decisions to be healthy are environmental. And so if you're in a poorer community, then you're more likely to be in a food desert. You're more likely to be surrounded by ultra-processed foods. You're more likely to be thinking, I just need to spend money on what's going to feed my family, which means I'm going to likely make choices that are less about fresh food and vegetables and more about ultra-processed. Can keep this for a long time. It's going to it's very effective from a budgeting point of view. So I think it's a huge problem for many of us to focus on our health and well-being without being an anomaly.
It's an act of rebellion to be healthy nowadays.
It is, but it's not. But I think, to be fair to us as humans, I think it's not really our fault. You know, like if you know, if I'm growing up in a household and you're consuming ultra-processed food all the time, that's all you see, and no one's cooking in the home, right? And you only eat takeaways, and that's the norm, and it's convenient, and it tastes good. And how difficult is it for you to say, I want to do something different?
Something different,
you know,
yeah. You need to be exposed to it, exposed to that difference.
Yeah, exposed to that difference.
And once you're exposed to it, you need to then do it for a while to know that it is, like, it's nice or it's good for you.
Yeah, it's good for you.
It's rewarding.
It's rewarding,
you know?
and I think it's you know, it's. Yeah, I think if I was gonna click my fingers and improve the health of society, like in terms of public health, not at the individual level, but for everyone, I would certainly say the environment would be the first choice. So, you know, make it easier for somebody to say, I'm not taking my car. You know, I don't need one. Yeah, I actually don't need one, because it's so convenient for me to use public transport that's going to be my first port of call, which means I'm more likely to have to walk to get access to my public transport, right? You know, having better access to green spaces, making sure they're safe, right? All of those environmental changes, I think, would be beneficial. You know, less subsidies for ultra-processed foods.
100%.
Right.
Yep.
So you know, less incentives for organizations to, you know, again, you go into the supermarket, you get the outside of the supermarket where you get the fresh fruit and vegetables, and you know, and then you go into that. As soon as you go, oh yeah, I've made some healthy choices. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. I've got my banana, whatever. And then as soon as you walk into the heart of the supermarket, now it's like, here you go. Here's all the deals. Here's all the buy one get 5 free. Here's the you know what I mean? Here's the value that you get if you can buy the biggest packet of this. that's going to last you 5 years. It's only going to cost you this much. So
Yeah.
you're drawn in to the,
Yeah.
you know,
It's about incentivizing, kind of healthy approaches, which we,
yeah,
we don't have. We don't have at all.
yeah, we
But
don't have,
what
yeah,
what I want to say is going back to play, like in terms of so ultra processed food, we all know. Well, not we all know, but it's kind of becoming more and more evident, even to people whose eyes are almost shut, that ultra
yeah,
processed food is an issue. Physicality is something that is, we know this. It's in the media. It's out there. But from your perspective, the play perspective, if I was to ask you how much has um, play played
yeah,
an important role in your almost like health insurance. I know in the last, I think it was the last year, you had a cycle accident, and some years ago you went through a very traumatic time. So how has play formed your kind of comeback and your robustness?
that's a really good question. Some great questions, by the way. Well, for one, I would say I've changed my position over the last sort of 10 years around healthy behaviors. So I think when I first started out and was very excited about this significant improvement in my health markers, how I felt, and there was a time where I felt it was not only insurance, it was almost a guarantee. Like nothing's going to happen to me, right? I'm doing everything right. Right? I'm making all the helpful choices. I'm doing all these things that no one around me is doing. Wow. There's something a little bit egocentric about it. Right? I've got the knowledge. I've got the right attitude. I'm eating my own dog food, right? I say this is what I do and this is what I do. And I lived through some life experiences where I realized actually there's some people I know who are really healthy, who have been healthy for as long as I've known them, and they can still succumb to a condition, disease, things that are unexplainable, and they can't outmaneuver some of those events in life. So I've certainly shifted from this a guarantee to a reduction in risk. So there's risk reduction. So yeah, if you make healthier choices, you're reducing the risk of many ailments, of many lifestyle diseases, of chronic disease. If you succumb to ill health by being more healthful, then you're going to minimize the symptoms. You're more likely to survive. You're more likely to be resolute in that process of managing those symptoms. And in terms of the insurance piece, I think it's like a buffer. That's how I see it now. Me having the cycling accident where I wondered at times, am I going to be able to walk again? Am I going to be able to sit or lie down without being in pain? Are there enough meds to help me just feel okay? Because I'm taking absolutely every pain relief going. From someone who was a bit like, I'll never take. You take painkillers? I'm never. Trust me. I went from like, I'm never even looking at a paracetamol to give me what's the max dose of everything that's possible because I can't cope with this level of pain, right? So that experience where that's completely out of my control. I was on a bike. Somebody opened the car door. I went straight into the car door. I pretty much crumpled up in a heap, and I had 3 herniated discs. And I went from walking upright to walking at like 90 degrees to then not being able to walk and needing a walking stick, to then not being able to use a walking stick to have to be in a wheelchair. So I just went from this, oh, it's not so bad, a bit uncomfortable, to this is getting worse and worse and worse and more painful and more meds. And so that it's been about a 12-month journey. And now I'm probably about 90%, I would say, of where I was. And probably if I still had imaging, they would say, you know, there's still some issues there. But you realize that, one, you can't control life's events, no matter what you do to minimize issues. But certainly I have to think positively about how would I have been if my spine wasn't as strong as it was? What would my recovery be if I wasn't as strong and healthy as I was? Right. So even though it was very bleak and very dark, there was something to latch onto, which is you're still in a better position, even with all of this pain and discomfort, than you would have been if you hadn't have done the things that you did previously. So that insurance for me is just this buffer, and you don't know how well this buffer is going to insulate you from life's problems. Certainly from a mental health point of view and psychological point of view, losing my sister, losing my mother and father in a few years. Again, me being strong, fit and healthy physically and thinking, yeah, everything's fine. And what's a mental health issue? I've no idea. What's that? It's just an excuse. I went from that position to, oh, now I know what it's like. Now I know what PTSD is like. Now I know what, significant trauma, what anxiety is, what depression is. I know what this is. I'm living this. How do I get out of this? So in some respects, fortunately, I went through this process, which made me more human, which made me, have more empathy, which made me realize that there are things that we can't control. And all we can do is make the best decisions we can, if we can. Sometimes we're not able to make the best decisions for ourselves. That's just how life is. And so I no longer, and that's why I feel my work as a movement coach has shifted to become even more inclusive and to be more understanding and less judgmental about why can't you just do it? Why can't you just do these things? Why can't you just make better decisions? Well, actually, there's loads,
I was going to say, so a lot of the work that I see you do is it seems to be quite corporate facing, quite corporate focused. And I guess with the corporate crowd, you would also have people that perhaps are resistant to the message of play. Yeah. So in going through what you've gone through, do you think that it's made things a lot easier in terms of kind of communicating the importance, or breaking through to people and who have certain hang-ups and don't want to revisit childhood again, or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so, because it's part of human experience, sharing your vulnerabilities and saying it's okay. It's a bit of a cliche now, but it's okay to not be okay, right? It's okay to have struggles that you have no idea how you're going to overcome. And I think for me, play is an incredible metaphor for life. And I've only realized this after going through some of these periods of adversity, where, how can the person who loves movement, who just jumps out of bed going, I can't wait to move, how can that person wake up one day and go, don't want to move, I don't want to go outside, I can't face the world around me? Depression. That was depression. How can the person who was chasing fear, like risk, I want to do this, I want these challenges, how can that person become the person who's like, I'm not sure, I don't want to take any risks. I just want to cocoon myself and just be wrapped in a hug because of anxiety, right? So going through those transitions, overcoming or learning to live with, because we can't overcome everything, learning to live with some of those scars, I realized for me play was the antidote. So play for me started out as how can I sustain and motivate myself to move more. That's why active play became my vehicle, my path, right? But then I realized play was also my emotional health vehicle and also my mental health vehicle. And the reason why play is so important to me is the one day I felt better after my sister's passing, where I felt a responsibility. My younger sister dying of lung cancer. I tried, I did everything that I could. I promised her the world. I wanted to substitute myself for her at times. I watched her passing, horrendous, traumatic, to see her witness her last breath. Like, I lived with that for a very long time. And I found something that appeared to work, which was my Xbox. I know I mentioned that before, but I became like addicted. Like, I literally woke up, played my Xbox. My partner went to work. I couldn't wait for her to leave. Xbox, all day. She'd come back. Oh, what have you been up to? I would lie and say I was really busy, really productive, but all I was doing was playing. And then I'd say, hey, do you mind if I play the Xbox? Even though it's been on all day. So she'd give me that space. And I had about 6 months of that was my existence. Didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to exercise. I felt awful within myself. And the one day that changed my life during that phase was I went to my local park which is my local playground, and I saw the tree that I'd been climbing for years, and I was like, you know what? I think I need to climb that tree again. And I tried to climb this tree, and it was the most difficult thing ever. It was like I've never climbed a tree before. I was uncoordinated. I was obviously a lot weaker, and I was scraping my arms on the bark of the tree, and so I was getting all these, getting kind of cuts and grazes on my arm, and I was like, even though I don't want to continue because it's uncomfortable, I was like, it feels good to feel something, and I literally struggled to get up to like 2 or 3 branches up of this tree. So I don't know, maybe 10 feet, 12 feet high. And I remember like looking down going, I feel good again. Like I've missed this. I've missed being outside. And so for me appreciating play again in a very innocent way, in its purest form of me just getting outside, being in nature, breathing some fresh air, or London air, but a lot fresher than being indoors. Getting some sun on my skin. I was like, I don't feel fixed, but I feel better. And it was the first time in months that I could say to myself, I feel a bit better today. Things are going to be okay. I can live with this through play. And so that for me was the connection that I'd already realized physically, the physical benefits. I realized the mental health benefits, the stress reduction benefits, the having a distraction. Like I'm not thinking about my life's troubles or woes. I'm just thinking about how can I climb this tree. I'm in the moment. I'm in this flow state. And then I realized it was very helpful from a cooperation point of view, from a social dynamic point of view. And so a lot of my work is partner-based, it's group-based. I don't just want to be moving in isolation and thinking about, oh, look at all the great things I can do. I'm like, how can I create even more games and more challenges where we play together? Yeah, all of those, all of that adversity led me to, I suppose, make the primal play method even more mature, even more
Okay, I like that.
robust a system of movement
Mm,
through my experiences. So yeah, so in answer to the corporate question,
mm,
having some vulnerability, having some challenges,
mm,
communicating those, like the hero's journey, it
mm.
people resonate with that,
Yeah.
right? So they resonate with the, oh, I used to be in the corporate world, I got sick, I found exercise, I got healthier. Wow, that
Mm,
happened to you? Yes, I gave up lots of money to make no
mm,
money so I could follow my
mm,
passion. Whoa, that
mm,
resonates with some people. And
mm,
then you have the mental health issues. Yeah, I was there. I understand. I didn't
mm,
sympathize before, but now I certainly do with people who are going
mm,
through mental health issues. Tick. You know,
mm,
I know what it's like to not want to talk to anyone, to not want to communicate, to not be social, to actually, it's nice to be social. It's nice to
yeah.
have have those feel good hormones magnified by interaction, social interaction.
Mm.
So all of those aspects of my humanity have been enhanced through play.
Through pray.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say? So, I mean, I know that you have your own blueprint for kind of dealing with or going through change. In the people that you've taught, in the people that you've coached, is there any kind of common ingredients that you see with the people that make drastic change?
Um. Oh yeah. Well, I think human behavior. Change in relation to human behavior, I think, is one of the most difficult things for humans. Uh, uh, um, when when what you want to change is so deep rooted within you, and you only have intellectual reasons as to why you need to change, modify your behavior. When that's the case, it's almost impossible to change your behavior. There's got to be something bigger, almost bigger than yourself, that makes you go, I'm not just intellectually hitting the checkbox to say, oh, I need to do this. I know the reasons why I need to do this. But there's something else emotionally that drives you to that place. And I think as a coach, my job is to find the reasons that can support you in managing realistic change that you can sustain, that you can be motivated to do, that you're not just permanently regretting. Like if you if you're just like in the gym for an hour, for speaking about myself, whenever I used to try exercise programs, I'd be pretty much for that 45 minutes, 60 minutes, hating every single second of that 60 minutes. And the only thing I'd be waiting for was the end of the 60 minutes where I go, oh, thank goodness, I did it. Okay, I just need to keep doing that, and everything will be fine. I'll get used to it. But in my case, all it happened was that it built resentment. I spent time thinking about what else I could be doing apart from being here. I'm clock watching. I'm going through the motion. I'm trying to do everything I can, okay, I know what's going to work. Soft, fluffy towels. I know what's going to work. The sauna afterwards. I know MTV on the screen. I know a million songs on my iPod. Yeah, and then none of those things would work, So I realized that change, you have to manage the process
Mm,
in a way that leads to long-term success.
okay.
And I think most people, unfortunately, they oversell how easy it is to make meaningful lifestyle change. Oh,
Mm,
just do this for 30 days, job done, sorted.
mm,
Just buy this product, it's going to change your life. Just do this 5-step program, done. And it's actually like, yeah, actually start this program. You're gonna have lots of enthusiasm to begin with, and
mm,
then you're gonna be up and down, backsliding, like falling off the wagon. It's gonna be like tumultuous journey
mm,
for you to get to this period of equilibrium where you go,
mhm,
actually, I'm starting to adjust. I'm starting to feel okay with this. So yeah, that for me has probably been the best approach that I have with clients when I have that introductory call and they're telling me about, I'm ready, I'm gonna do it, whatever you say, yeah, and I have a realistic like, hey, I'm not gonna be with you all the time. You don't need to tell me how great you're gonna be. Let's just communicate about how things are. Let's just communicate about the struggles. Let's communicate about the easy things that we will certainly celebrate. But let's also discuss the issues, right? The things that you really struggle with, that you feel as if I don't want to be upfront to Darryl about, because I want to keep them secret. So I have that very honest, upfront conversation in a way that shows that I understand. I'm not going to tell you this is simple. This is going to be the most difficult thing ever for you to achieve, because if it wasn't, you would have done it by yourself. You wouldn't be telling me now that you've tried it 10 times and it hasn't happened, right? So obviously it's difficult. And I've had to find strategies myself for the things that are really, really, really difficult, that I don't want to do. But for some reason, I feel are important enough for me to pursue. How can I make that happen? So it's an incredible role. It's incredible work, because the level of satisfaction of becoming a person who has to understand human psychology, has to understand human behavior, has to have a lot of empathy, but also enough of a authoritarian position as well, to keep people accountable. So you're constantly like evolving as a coach, because one hand you can't just say it's okay, it doesn't matter, you do whatever you want, it doesn't matter, right? But at the same time you can't just be like, look, it's unacceptable, you just can't, unless you do this and this. So you have to be kind of like morphing between these, this yin and yang of lifestyle change and knowing when it's okay to say this is okay, let's find a way around this. This is not okay, doesn't matter, you just make it, in this instance you're just making excuses, right? And there's a fine line, I think, trying to tread that line to support clients.
Kind of going back to the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about why you haven't got as many flowers as I think that you should have.
Thank you.
And there's something that I tend to say quite regularly to people, is there's a difference between being fit and healthy, or there can be a difference between being fit and healthy.
Yes.
Someone who's fit, who's got the six pack, who's got the amazing body, might not necessarily be the healthiest. But I guess one of the issues with that as a coach is fitness can easily be measured. So with your clients, how do you follow their progress? What are the markers that they are progressing for you? So
I think we just cut out there momentarily. So
okay.
Yeah. If you could repeat that, sorry.
So basically, what I was saying is, in terms of kind of conventional coaching, conventional fitness, fitness is quite easily measured. In terms of maybe the aesthetic or the amount of weight someone's lifting, or the distance or speed that they've gone. But in the play arena, how is it that you measure a client's progress?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So, I have my own definition of play, which I think, I hope that I communicate socially, and people who understand my work, who gravitate towards me, understand this. So there are some things that I believe you have to measure. Numbers sometimes are really important. We need a baseline. We need to see where you are. We need to compare you to your peers if we can, right? I do need to have some sort of expectations to say, well, look, you're underperforming here, not because, only for the reason that you're just not fit enough, right? Not because you have a long-term injury, not because you're managing some sort of chronic condition. It's because actually you've just been sedentary for a long time. So you getting out of a chair is really difficult, right? For example. So I do believe that numbers are important. I do believe some things need to be quantified. But for most people, the qualitative aspect is more important. So for example, I couldn't tell you now. I used to be able to tell you what my one rep max was on a deadlift. I could tell you and be very proud of it, right? So I used to want to do 2 to 2.5 times body weight. And I used to feel that was like proof that I was a man, right? So I've achieved once in my life 2.5 times my body weight. Felt phenomenally strong. Now I have no idea what my one rep max is. I have no idea if I could just do 1 times, 1.5 times, 2, 3 times. Who knows? I have no idea, but I don't care. What I care about now, the qualitative aspect is there a physical challenge from, say, a strength point of view? Is there a physical challenge that I will say from a strength point of view that I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't think I can do that. So that for me is if my friend says, hey, do you want to help me move? And I can't afford to get removal men. I'm like, yeah, I'll lift whatever. I will help you or I will do it myself. I'll lift whatever you need me to lift. And I don't care how heavy it is. I can just assess. Can I do this or not? So I think for most of my clients, the numbers are still important because they want to know they're getting some value from me, right? They want to know that they're improving, that there's some periodization happening. But I try to make that about their goals being about what can they do? How good do they feel? What do they want to achieve? So I find my clients now are very much more around, I feel embarrassed that I can't remove the water cooler at work. I wait for the strong guy to take the water bottle, add the water bottle to the water cooler because I'm not strong enough, or I call the services that building services to manage that, right? Say, or I can't piggyback my grandkids, and I want to be able to do that. I can't play tag with them. I can't, go for a lengthy walk at the weekend with my partner. Those are the meaningful aspects of fitness that most people will get in touch with me for. If somebody wants to get their best 10K pace, I could take them through that sort of program, but that doesn't resonate to me. And most of my clients wouldn't come to me with that expectation. They'll probably say something like, yeah, I want to get a really good 10K, but I also want to be really, really strong, and I want to be able to sprint for the bus, and I want to be able to play with my kids, and I want to be able to feel that I'm a strong, capable human physically. Okay, I can help. And we can do that in a way which is playful. And we can do that in a way which we can track certain metrics so that you go, okay, I'm not just taking your word for it, Darryl. I can now do stuff that I couldn't do before. So that tends to be how I work. And it all depends on what's important for the client. Some of my clients are like, I just want to be able to do 1 push-up. I've never been able to do 1 in my entire life, or 1 pull-up. That sometimes is their goal. They're like, I just want to be able to do 1 unassisted pull-up, dead hang. I'm a woman, I'm 64, never been able to do 1. Can you get me to do 1? I can try. But I tell you what, we're not going to just practice pull-ups all the time. I'm going to get you doing some whole body movement and strengthening you so that when we do attempt your pull-up attempts, you'll be like, oh, I'm definitely strong. I couldn't do anything before. Now I can pull a bit. It's like, okay, let's have a bit more of a focus for that. But their perspective changes actually, because they go, I felt that what I wanted was one pull up or one push up, but I realized I just wanted to become stronger. And so those people, I can give you an example. That person who asked me for one push up and the person who asked me for one pull up, the pull up person can do like about 8 or 9 proper full control pull ups, and hadn't done any in their life before. And the person with the push ups can do about 10. And they're both in their 60s as well, right? Well, no, one's late 50s, pull-ups, and 60s. But what's interesting, it's all these other things that they can do. You know, they can walk further. They're like, oh yeah, I took the more difficult route on the hike, and you know, my partner's like behind me, whereas before he was in front. You know, and I'm doing all these other things. I can do the housework all day now without complaining. I've got less muscle soreness when I do something physically active. I feel more capable. I feel as if I'm building longevity and in function. So yeah, so I don't want to say numbers aren't important, but as a movement coach rather than as an exercise coach, I want to improve all aspects of movement: mobility, balance, strength, speed, power, agility, you know, functional strength, recreational strength. Performance, not so important. But even so, today I did a max power output on an indoor bike. So I, you know, so even though I say, I'm not too numbers, who cares? But yeah, every now and again I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm in the gym. I'm on an indoor bike. I can test my RPM, I can test my max watts, peak, power, you know, blah, blah, blah. I can test my VO2 max. I want to know what my VO2 max is every now and again. But what's interesting is I try not to train for that metric. I want to have an idea what that is. So I don't do endurance training to improve my VO2 max. I play and I do lots of different movements and I go, I wonder what my VO2 max is like now. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's a different, yeah. So the outcome is still important, but the way I get there, I'm not trying to engineer, okay, right, I need to do lots of endurance now. I need to do lots of hit intervals because I want to get a better VO2 max, or I want to get a better deadlift, 1 rep max. I'm going to do lots of like strength work, low reps, high weight, blah, 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 loads of rest. I try not to do that. I'm just like, can I do that? Yes or no? Can I push that car? You know, so yeah, that for me is more interesting. I'm like, I can push that car. Okay, can I push it with people in the car? Can I push it if it's a bigger car? Can I push a van? That was my last thing that I did. I was like, can I push a van? How far can I push it? Don't care. I'm not going to measure the distance. I'm just like, that was quite far, wasn't it? Yeah. Or that wasn't that far. That was really difficult. But I think having that experience of just trying something, and it's okay if that van doesn't move. You're not like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure, I'm a complete failure, I'm a weak. You go, I'm just not ready now to be able to do that. Is it something that I can work towards, or is it something that's just never going to happen? And I've got plenty of it's never going to happen, and I'm okay with it. You know, I know what my limitations are. I know what my strengths are. I know what my kryptonite is. So that's another thing that I do with my clients. You know, we have a strengths, weaknesses. What's your kryptonite? And you know, people often tend to speak of weaknesses as kryptonite, and I'm like, no, those are just weaknesses. Those are still things you can work on. Kryptonite is a thing that no matter what you do, you cannot overcome it. You can't improve it. You're just throwing energy into something that's going to have no returns, nil. And you're like, so I know what those are. So before, I would have chased those things. I'm like, I hate the fact that I'm not good at blah. I hate it. I have to work. You do all that work and you're like, oh, I'm not really any better at this. It's just a time it's just draining my time and my
Draining.
energies. Yeah. So now I know, I'm good at this. It's easy, it's effortless. I love doing this because I'm great. And then I have these weaknesses where I go, this is a struggle, but it's great to be in that struggle. It's uncomfortable. It's great to be there because I can still see some progress. I know if I worked really hard, I could get some meaningful returns. And then there's stuff that I'm like, you know what? You be good at that. You know what I mean? All you people out there be really good at that. That's not my thing. And even that lesson is valuable for some of my clients because they're spending all their time going, why can't I be, the best marathon runner and get my 2.5 hour marathon time? Like, really? You do realize you got a desk job. You're not a national level athlete. Why is that your goal?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
You've actually helped me see things. I think one of my conflicts or one of my struggles with my brand Physical is in the kind of the fitness media kind of area. You are pulled between focusing on fitness, focusing on feats,
Yes,
and focusing on health. And I think my passion, my focus, my spirit is on the health aspect.
Yeah.
But far too often I'm pulled towards purely fitness or purely feats. And health is, health kind of, as we touched on before, is not the most sexiest aspect. It's not the thing that you can kind of sell so well. So yeah, I think conversations like these are helpful to kind of make me see and hopefully in kind of putting them out to other people, help other people see what their focus should be.
Yeah, and I think you do. I think, to be honest, given the work you're doing, given having this podcast, for example, and you're doing that work, and I think it's easier as we get older. So I'm in my 50s now. Even 10 years ago, my focus, even though I would publicly say, yeah, health. There was a huge part of it which was like, I'm going to look, when I'm on the beach this summer, I'm going to look good. I'm going to look good for my age. People are going to be like, there's no way, there was still quite a bit of vanity. Now, I swear to you, like, I'm just happy to have another day of relative health, whatever that is, however that looks for me. And I think our perspective changes as we age. And then, because now, even 10 years on, I've got a lot of friends, my peer group, who are dealing with stuff or who are no longer here. So, and some of those people looked incredible. Like bodies that are, I could only dream about looking like, and they're not here. So you know what I'm saying? So certainly those motivations are very short term, and I think we know when we're in the presence of people who are advocating health, and I think those people have a much longer and deeper impression on us. I met somebody today, for example, he's 70, right? And somebody was saying to me, how old do you think that guy is? And I was just like, because you asked me that question, I know he's older than, you know what I mean? You know that, right? You're like, okay, he's obviously older than that. So I was like thinking, like I don't know, late 50s, like, I think he's about 60. And they said he's 70, and I'm like, I was just like completely blown away. But what was really interesting, just spending some time with him, you know what I mean? And he was talking about, I was in the gym, I did some fasting this morning, I did my martial arts, I've been doing it since I was a kid. And you kind of go, yes, you can just, I didn't know what he looked, I didn't know what he looked like under his clothes, but I knew he was espousing health, right? And he was about him talking about his lifestyle. I don't know if he had any health issues, but it was just like
It was glowing.
Yeah, he's just glowing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he looked, he looked really good for it. I was just like, you got to be how? I was looking at this guy thinking how, but then you realize it's just the life that he lives. Of course, there's a cocktail of genetics and obviously lifestyle choices and he's like I'm not ready to retire. I'm gonna keep going, and I'm just like, that's just somebody making really good choices and happy, and I suppose even more important than that, there's people that I've spoken to and who are really fit and probably really healthy, but they look as if they are like flagellation, they're like they're like
It's
just
pure punishment.
absolutely
Yeah,
they're punishing themselves,
yeah.
and you're like, you don't, even though you look good, you don't look good. Even though you're really fit and look fantastic aesthetically, you don't look fantastic because you don't look healthy.
Yes,
You look like you have a permanent grimace.
Yes.
Because
you look
of this.
Unhappy.
Yeah, you're looking happy. There's no joy. You're like, I haven't been for my 5-mile run today. You're just like neurotic about everything. You don't enjoy your food, even though it's healthful. You're like weighing and measuring your food and like, I can't eat at 5 to 11. It has to be 11 o'clock on the dot. So actually you have this high elevated level of stress and neuroticism, and you're looking at other people and being judgmental. Oh, you're having half a banana. Oh my God. Do you know how much sugar there is in a banana? Like, oh my, So yeah, I think I'm hopefully becoming less judgmental, more empathetic, more sympathetic about people's making the choice that they feel they can make at a given time, and so that makes me a better coach, and hopefully helps me make better content. And since doing that, I can tell you for now, maybe 60-70% of my client base are people that have Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis and have, chronic fatigue and have autoimmune conditions, and people who are really struggling with something, who realize movement is one of the best things that they can do. 10 years ago, I had people who would just be like, hey, Darryl, I want to get jacked for the summer. You know what I mean? I want to get my 2.5 weight body weight deadlift. You know what I mean? I want to climb trees with you. Now I get people who are like, can you help me? I've got these issues. I hope you can help me, because what you do, maybe you can't. And I'm like, yes. This is perfect, because you've probably been to people who go, no, can't help you. Sorry. Look at you. Look what you can do. You can't even do that. You're breathless by doing this. I'm like, please come to me. This is a challenge which is very rewarding. I can get you to feel superhuman when everything around you is telling you, don't even think about. Yeah, don't even try. Yeah. I want to be like, yes, you can not only try, but you can hopefully overcome this disbelief and see yourself as a superhuman. Yeah. So that, I think that's the full circle of, those are the people that I want to cater for. Those who are sedentary, who are like, I don't like exercise, there's nothing about it that I enjoy, let me see if I can help you enjoy it. And also those who are like, I would love to exercise, I used to love it, but I just can't anymore. I don't have the energy, don't have the ability, I'm too old, too busy. I'm like, okay, let's see if we can find a way of making it work for you, and that's a very rewarding aspect of my work.
Yeah, well, I need to thank you for your work. My little one, I can hear it. I can hear that she's home already.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of she doesn't sound too happy, so I'm gonna introduce her to this. I'm gonna cheer her up with this. So,
let me know how that goes. So
yeah,
I want to see something. I want to see something on your social media of you bear crawling with your little one.
100%, that'll be up there. But yeah, no, I want to thank you for your work, and this has been an awesome chat, and it's not only kind of put my own approach to fitness and stuff into perspective, but my whole kind of mission with physical is this has kind of helped to awaken, like or point me in the right direction to what I should be doing with the platform. So I want to thank you for that, and yeah, thank you for your time, man.
No, thank you so much. It's been
I
a real
have
pleasure.
I have other questions that I would have wanted to ask you. Actually, there's I'll end with a quote that I heard
Okay.
in one of your podcasts,
Yeah.
which was just awesome. It is, we are blunting our ability when it comes to play because we feel it's only for childhood. Actually, I hit you with another one.
Yeah. Okay.
This was from the TED Talk.
Yeah.
We need to go backwards to move forwards, and that was the whole clues that our ancestry leaves with us. So yeah, man, thank you for your work.
Oh.
Thank you for putting all of these messages out there, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you, man.
No, thank you. I mean, I thank you for your efforts as a host to be familiarize yourself with my work and to, I tell you what, to hear my quotes back, sometimes you're kind of like,
Yeah.
did I really say that? Was that, I had a profound moment.
Yeah, you said it, man.
But yeah, it's really important, I feel, for us to, like on my t-shirt now, the world is my playground, right? Sometimes it's really important to have these, visual cues that remind you of the person that you are. You know what I mean? And not just who you want to be, but the person you are. And so for me, this is play as an adult is who I am, and I shut it down as a transitioning from a kid to an adult because that's what you're told you should do. But I want to continue and hold on to that because I believe play is not just a childhood state. Play is actually the most adult form you can be. And once we realize that, then play transforms us because it doesn't hem you in. A baby cub, I'll just finish on this point. Imagine a baby lion cub and an adult lion, and the adult lion going to the baby cub, "Oh, I wish I was young as you. I wish I could do the things you could do when I was a cub." Like, really? The baby cub is going, "I can't wait to be you. I can't wait to have the power and the strength and the athleticism and the ability of you." And that big cat can still play. The big cat doesn't go, "I'm not going to play anymore because I'm an adult cat." Nah, the adult cat will play until it can't. You know what I mean? Until it actually can't. And that's what I feel humans get. We get this wrong. We kind of shut down play before we should. And actually, we should be continuing that playful journey because we've got better physical and cognitive ability as an adult. So yeah. Anyway, so that journey should continue until we can't anymore.